Hey everybody, welcome to another spring training episode of Phil and the Mike. As always, I'm Darren Michael, and with me, the man who just got back. He was at an auction house. He actually paid $1.2 million for a Joe Montana Super Bowl jersey from the 92 game winning The Drive to beat Cincinnati 20-16. Phil Calise, my friend, where do you come up with all this money to keep buying all this stuff?
This gig right here. This is it. This is it. I moved mountains to do these calls with you because our audience is robust and emerging and growing, and the international market I hear is flourishing. I just got off a call with our new CFO. I don't know if you knew we hired one, but he was giving me a little lowdown. So, yeah, things are going fabulous for us.
Good,
Big
good.
stuff, my man. Look at
Well,
your haircut. Looks sharp.
you like that, man?
What's it like to be a
I went a little
old
different, man.
middle-aged man with a nice set of hair?
Well, you know what? We missed your birthday, didn't we?
Um, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
We
there
did.
was a lot of birthdays.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, your birthday and Trisha's birthday. She's a little bit older than you, but Brooke had a birthday in there. I mean, my God,
Damn.
full of birthdays. It's
A lot of
it's
birthdays.
it's pretty crazy, man. So you look good for a man of your age.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. I don't
Yeah.
always feel good, but I get back on. This is in the very famous, hilarious movie Wedding Crashers when Owen Wilson walks into the office, or maybe it's vice versa. I don't remember. And he's like, you know what time it is? And he's like, wedding season. And they're hyped. That's what time it is for me. It's baseball season.
There
It's
you
baseball
go.
season, MLB baseball season, travel baseball season, and the new wrinkle, the new monkey wrench in the equation in the Khalees household is now Luca made travel baseball team, and so we have two boys going in different directions, and it's
Nonstop,
something. It's
nonstop.
something. It's something.
And you can't coach two teams.
No. I don't coach Luca's team, which I think is a little bit of a point of contention with him.
Yeah.
But what, as a great, wonderful dad that I am, who has spread himself so paper thin, so razor thin that you can't even imagine, what I do is, and this walks you through the audience of dads of today versus dads of yesteryear. Dads of yesteryear were like, I'll meet my kid when he's 18. Dads of today figure out, how do I do all this? So what I do to make it make sense and to feel like it's equitable
Yeah.
is I coach Luca's little league baseball team.
Okay.
So Luca plays travel baseball, Luca plays little league baseball. Dominic plays travel baseball, Dominic plays little league baseball. And oh, Darren, I didn't tell you or the audience, my older son got invited to this elite travel baseball team that is only a tournament team that plays a couple times in the spring and a couple times in the summer and what have you, but he got invited to that. So the rare weekend we don't have anything is now filled with his other tournament team, just so it can be. But it's fun because what lucked out, so this
Yeah.
really lucked out for us, is that my daughter's best friend is on one of the travel baseball teams.
Okay.
My daughter's second closest friend is on Luca's travel baseball team.
Okay. Okay.
My wife's good friend is on Luca's baseball team. And
Okay.
then she's most comfortable with my travel baseball team that I coach because we've been with these families for
So,
three, four
so,
years.
so what you're,
So
so what
it's
you're saying, wait, so
it's
what you're
more of
saying
like a
is that Raina is friends with somebody on Luca's team. So does she have a lot of friends that age?
yeah. So Reina is very close friends with a lot of 8-year-olds. That's how she
Okay.
rolls. Yep.
Okay.
That's the
Good.
that's the K through third grade teacher in her,
That's
right?
kind of how you threw it out there,
Thanks for in this
you
day and
know.
age, thanks for bringing that to the audience's attention. Yeah, we don't want that to get misconstrued. But yeah, so that's life. So March Madness for us is a little different.
Seriously, man. Seriously, this is the time where we're not going to get to see you very often. So I will relish in this great opportunity to see you once again, man. I miss you when you're not available. But I wanted to jump into a couple of things since it is that time of year. I wanted to talk about some. I want to get some opinions. We're not going to do much fact today. I want some opinion, and that is there's some pretty big interesting things going on, and I want to start with spring training thoughts. All right. Now, the players get about 6 weeks to get ready for the season. It's about 2 weeks before you play games, and then you got games for a month. So there's a number of different perspectives. You've got the perspective from the team itself, the perspective of the players, and this perspective of the fans. What are your thoughts about spring training? Do you feel like 6 weeks is a good amount of time talk about it from a player's perspective? Do you think that when the season starts, these guys are ready to go?
So what I do think is evolved over the years, and this is a little bit going back, but if you our audience for the 40 and older crowd in the audience, spring training used to be a chance for people to actually get in shape,
Yeah.
physically get in shape, while they also then got their arm in shape and obviously all baseball related shape.
Yeah.
These guys are all high world class athletes now. They
Yeah.
stay in shape all year round. It is not the same thing. The facilities, the indoor facilities that these athletes get their hands on are second to none. I mean, I see some of the training facilities youth like academy programs are in now are blow your mind in New Jersey, let alone what these MLB guys are getting into. So do I think 6 weeks is necessary? Maybe just for pitchers, because at the end of the day, they still need to see live BP. They need to throw live to batters and vice versa. Obviously, batters, I think, do enjoy getting their swing, made right. But 6 weeks does feel a touch long, in my opinion. I think it could be shortened because, again, they're coming in such great shape. So I don't think it's not like it used to be. I used to see guys come in with beer bellies and then they would, shrink into reasonably good shape by April, and then they'd really be in good shape by June. And that just it's not the case anymore. And I will say, as somebody who thoroughly enjoys baseball, it's my favorite sport. I absolutely hate preseason sports. I just do. Maybe if I lived in Florida or I lived in Arizona and I would be a little nostalgic about, the autographs and going to see them work out and stuff. But because I'm in where we're located, I don't see it. So to me, it's like, it's boring as all hell. Like, I don't want to see a guy who's never going to be on the major league team throw the first inning of a game. It's just, and then I even selfishly, when I see the best players hit home runs, I'm like, save them for the regular season. So I'm like one of those people.
I mean, I kind of look at it from two different perspectives. One, it's exciting to be watching baseball again after you've had that long winter break, right? But two, like you said, I mean, and I have this conversation with my mom and my dad all the time because they're down in Sarasota, which is where the Orioles play, and they go to some. I think they went to the game yesterday, or they went to the first game, and and it's like, okay, great. Now pitching, Russ Smith, and you're like, okay, who the hell is Russ Smith? You have no idea who these guys are. So you look at him, and I look at who was the guy? I think it might have been Jock Peterson a couple years ago, where he had like a dozen home runs during spring training, and then he gets in the regular season and he like doesn't hit anything. And I have to keep reminding myself that, hey, you know what? Most of the guys that you're facing are probably not going to make major league rosters. I mean, there's all kinds of guys.
Yeah.
And even you being a diehard Mets fan, I mean, if you were to go down and see a game in spring training, you probably wouldn't know who half the guys are either.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, like everything else, like a good baseball fan is locked into perhaps the rookies and the guys that are either prospects, top prospects that either going to make the team or they're going back, they're going back to AA or AAA, but you get a sneak peek at them type of deal. That's really, I think, what it becomes. That if you're being honest, as a big diehard fan of baseball, there's two things you're looking forward to in the spring training. You're looking forward to those top prospects, those young guys you read about that you get to see for a snapshot, and you're cringing at the thought of an injury.
Yeah.
That's really what it gets down to. It's the same way in football in a lot of ways, but the NFL rookies play right away. But in terms of injuries, you're just like, please get me through the season. I don't need Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander tweaking an oblique or, God forbid, an arm pop, and now the season ended before it started. That's really what it gets down to for me. This year's a little different. The WBC is this year. And the World Baseball Classic is going to throw the spring training upside down. And it adds to injuries and risk and all the rest, because now half the damn league is going to play for one of these countries. And now you got to worry about reading about, they have to accelerate their ramp up this year.
And it's an interesting thought because, a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, you didn't used to have, I mean, obviously you didn't used to have the WBC, but but you don't realize how many foreigners play in the major leagues. I mean, there's a lot, and even people that have, have, you hear about those people. Both their parents are American, and they play for the Italian national team, and you're like, how did that
Yeah.
happen? So it's like that kind of stuff. So you're going to see all kinds of guys that are playing in this, which even waters down spring training even more because you're not going to see the really good players. So
Yeah.
from a fan's perspective, I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's probably a great time for kids to go and really just enjoy. It's almost like going to a minor league game, and then every now and then you get to see a good player. So I enjoy it. Something interesting happened the other day. I thought this was really cool. The Orioles and the Pirates were playing, and the game was over at the top of the ninth. I can't remember who was ahead, and the game was over. But both teams decided they wanted to get a little more work in, so they played the bottom of the ninth without umpires. Did you hear about that?
I did not. I missed that.
Yeah, the managers just came out and they're like, listen, one guy's like, yeah, I got a pitcher that I want to throw, and the other one's like, I've got a couple hitters I want to get up there, and so they decided to play the bottom of the ninth with no umpires, which I thought was pretty wild.
That is
I guess
pretty
you weren't really
interesting.
calling balls and strikes, but anyway, so
Balls and
I
strikes.
want to stick with the baseball theme,
Okay.
and the biggest change for this year are some of the rule changes. And there's three
Hmm.
major rule changes. And I really want to kind of dive into this. And I really want to hear your opinion on this because I guess they surveyed fans and they got a lot of people that said, hey, the games are dragging on. And we know that the games are a lot faster. I mean, a lot slower than they used to be. It's just the way it is. So now they're talking about this year, there's going to be a pitch timer, which is really odd. And the reason they're doing that is they want to create obviously a quicker pace of play. So you've got the pitcher's got 15 seconds to pitch if the bases are empty, 20 seconds with a runner on. The hitter gets one timeout per plate appearance, and they have to be in the batter's box with 8 seconds left on the clock. This is so friggin' confusing. Pitchers also get two disengagements per, meaning a pickoff or a step off the rubber, and a violation to that is a balk. So I think the rules are very interesting, and they're trying to limit pickoff attempts because they found that they did this in the minors last year, and it led to a 26% increase in stolen base attempts, and they were able to reduce the game time by 25 minutes last year in the minors. So my question for you is, it's a tough adjustment for these guys. I mean, they've got that pitch clock that's right there. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, it's obviously going to speed up the game. There's no doubt it's going to, but is it going to disrupt the psyche of these players because now they have to kind of get into a different routine and it has to be hurried?
All right, so let me give you my take on this, and I definitely observed a few spring training games, and I tried to watch a few and saw some highlights and things like that. I love it.
You love
I
it?
love the clock. I, I'm old school baseball guy, and so I've watched baseball for damn near since I'm five. It's
Yeah.
36 years of watching baseball. The game has moved painfully slower every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The idea that everybody's, I feel like Jeter kind of started the new era of every time he had to get out of the batter's box, play with both batting gloves, readjust everything. There's no way you could pitch. I look at things through a pitcher's perspective a little bit more than a hitter's perspective because I think the pitcher is who makes or breaks the
Yeah.
movement of a game, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pitcher needs to get into some type of groove. Nobody can get into a groove, and the pitchers are their own worst enemy because over the years they adjusted and they also stepped off the mound too much and they added to the delay. But I grew up in an era, you had one foot in the box, you turned to the left, you took your
Yeah.
sign from the third base coach, you got your foot back in the box and you swung or you
None of
took
that.
the pitch.
Yeah.
Like we need to get back to that. So what I like about the clock is, yeah, it's going to speed people up. Some people are going to embrace it. Max Scherzer's like, I love it. Get
Oh
these
yeah.
people back
Oh,
in the box. Let's go. I'm ready to pitch. He's
fantastic.
always
Yeah.
tried to
Yeah.
move fast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some hitters, I think, will adjust to it more quickly than others. But shaving 20, 25 minutes off these games just gets you back to what it used to be. So like I know it's like a newfound like thing for a lot of fans if you're younger, but like I love the clock. And And here's something I think is an unintended benefit. Usually you get unintended consequences, but I think an unintended benefit is now you're kind of riveted by the clock.
Yeah, yeah,
Baseball's the kind of game where you kind of disappear for an inning or two, you come back, you disappear for a half inning, you come back. I'm kind of riveted to the clock, and I've heard this from other people. The clock's there, and now you kind of like, why? Is he going to get it off in time? Is everybody set? Are they going to get a strike? Are they going to? Now it's like it's built in some urgency that baseball never could do.
yeah,
You
yeah.
couldn't create urgency in a regular season baseball game in the third inning of an April game. All of a sudden, this clock creates a little urgency. So I think it's a win-win across the board. I really do.
I mean, I think it's going to be great for fans. It's going to be great for some of those guys. But like you said, I mean, was Jeter the one? He would step out, he would undo his batting glove, put it back on. I mean, it's like, oh my God, dude, enough is enough already.
Yeah, it was all that was what it was. It was just a
God.
nightmare. It was just an absolute brutal nightmare. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Good. I think we're on the same pitch with that. The same page. I look forward to seeing that. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. Number two rule change, the shift restriction. So now you have to have two infielders on either side of second base, which is incredible. And all the infielders, they have to have both feet in the infield. So, I love the shift when they have when the third baseman is playing shortstop, and you got the second baseman, you got the shortstop playing where the second baseman plays. You've got the second baseman playing in the outfield, and then you got the first baseman at the first base spot. It's supposed to get batting average up, which it will, and it's supposed to get strikeouts down. I mean, and the one thing that I don't like is I'll never understand how guys, there's certain guys that if you look at their numbers, there's one guy, I can't remember who it is. He pulls the ball 90% of the time. Like, learn how to hit the ball the other way. I mean, you're a freaking professional athlete. I mean, come on. So I think it's a good thing because, we all see the shift and we're like, oh, and then the guy gets up and what does he do? He always hits into the shift, right? Maybe that's why you got guys like Joey Gallo that are batting, $180.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so I go back and forth with the shift in this regard. If somebody's willing to give you a gigantic hole to hit the ball through, in some regards, it's like you should be able to hit the ball there.
Yeah,
and I thought, so selfishly, I thought the shift was going to eventually create a group of young players that started to go back old school to hit it where it's pitched, a little more back control, choke up on the bat, play a little pepper, right? Like the idea that you could put a ball through a hole because you sit back and wait or you whatever. Now with this, or is it going to just go back to launch angles and just pulling the ball? And like now, are we now going to go back the other way where you're going to teach all the wrong things to exploit, the game? So I don't know if I like that they're going back or not. As screwy as it looked on paper, and I will say, as somebody who really loves baseball and like watches a lot of Met games, Dominic and I in particular would watch. And the thing I was always trying to identify, and I didn't always know because of camera angles, is like, where the hell is the defense set up at this moment? Because when a ball gets hit, I want to naturally in my mind know like it's probably going to be fielded or not. But oftentimes you didn't know, because if the camera didn't catch exactly the defensive alignment, you see a ball hit up the middle, you're like, damn, base hit. Or good base hit, depending on what you're rooting for. And there's somebody standing right there. And you're like, oh, a clean single up the middle is right into the second baseman's glove or whatever. So now you kind of a little bit more know, though. If a ball is hit between first and second or between short and third or hit up the middle, it's a hit now, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you could kind of like go back to the way it was, where you just kind of know what's a hit and what's not off the bat.
Well, you think about it. I mean, with the baseball purists, I mean, it's different. But when you're talking about just the casual fan, they want to see excitement. They want to see runs. They want to see people getting more hits. I mean, they want to see more action. And this is a way, if I'm a pitcher, I'm not really excited about this because this is watch. You're going to see that the batting average in the major leagues is going to go up. You're going to see a lot of different things happening. I'm more of a guy that believes in, I don't remember who the guy was. I think it was some famous manager that said the key is to hit them where they ain't. You know who said that? I can't remember for the life of me.
Was that Casey Stengel?
It might have been Casey Stengel. It sounds like Casey Stengel, but that's also from the kind of the Wade Boggs school of thought. I mean, that's what he would always say. He would look at how they're playing him, and then he would just look where he wanted to hit the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, if you think about it, I mean, and I think that's kind of a rare instance. I mean, the ball's coming at you at 95 miles an hour, and you're hitting it where you want to hit it. I mean, first off, you have very little time to even swing, but you're swinging towards the direction you want at that fraction of a second. I mean, it is a talent, but I think, like you said, I mean, when a ball's hit up the middle, it's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
It's not, it's nice to know that. I mean, it
and you know
is.
what? But not necessarily, because you can shift as long as there's two guys to the left or the right of each base. So you can be playing
Yeah.
like right up the middle. You
Yeah,
know?
a second baseman could be right to the just to, if you're looking at from a catcher perspective, just to the right of the base. The second baseman could
Yeah,
basically be up the middle and eat up all of that.
that's
But
right.
if you
That's right.
see that on the screen, which you'll always see up the middle because you get to see that, if a ball gets hit anywhere between first and second, you know it's a clean hit.
Right. Right. So
Whereas with the shift, you could have had three guys sitting on that side and you could damn near get nothing through that side, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, or my favorite thing where the outfielder was in short right field and a bullet would get hit and it was an easy two hopper right to him for an easy out. And you're like, you see the big lumbering hefty lefty who's like, are you kidding me? I got 8 steps out of the box. My clean rip single is an out. I mean, so yeah, listen.
Yeah.
And listen, I get it. I get it. Hit it the other way. Do something about it. You know what they're doing. But you know, these guys weren't properly taught how to do that now. If you're under the age of 35, you don't know what that's like at all.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
just don't. You didn't grow up in that world. So
No, it's true. It's true. And the third big rule change, which I really want to understand this from your perspective, is bigger bases. First,
yeah.
second, third base are going from 15 square inches to 18 square inches. So supposedly it has a positive impact on player safety, although I don't really understand that. It reduced injuries by 13%. I don't know how base running injuries, I guess they're talking about. I don't know. But the interesting thing is, and I kind of thought about this, and it actually was interesting. The distance reduced, you look at it and you say, okay, great. From home to first and home to third, it's 3 inches closer. And from first to second, and second to third, it's 4.5 inches closer. And I'm thinking about this and I'm like, only 3 inches or only 4.5 inches. I mean, that's nothing. But think about how close some of these plays are. Even stolen bases, how close they are. And I guess it is a game of inches, I guess. And so I guess that does make sense. But I need to understand how bigger bases help players' safety. Do you really understand? I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
no, so the stealing, so there was 2 things that were mentioned, the safety, and there was this idea that stealing bases would be up, or even it would help the speed guy, right? Just to your point, right? The bang bang play is more likely now to go to the speed guy's way, and maybe you pick up, the faster guys pick up an extra 10 or 15 infield singles a year. I'm just throwing out a number. I don't know. I didn't quantify it, but a handful of bunt singles, a handful of bang bang plays, these speed guys are beaten out. So the offense ticks up a little without the power side of things. So the little guy gets a bone thrown to him when everything has been thrown to the big guy forever. So I think that is the thought, and it probably will play out that way. Stealing of bases, I heard, would be a big thing, but this was already implemented in high A, low A, and maybe AAA. There was a few minor leagues. They didn't see any real distinguishable difference in stealing bases.
Yeah.
I can make a case, though, that's because guys aren't taught to steal bases anymore, and it's not because the base isn't bigger. The injury part, though, is very valid because what the first basemen are going to be able to do now is really steer clear of a lot of these almost collisions. They're going to be able to work the outside of the base and be significantly further away from the runner coming down bearing on them. And I think with the footwork these guys have and the skill set they have, the base was small. And so there was just times you couldn't avoid it. But with the bigger base, I think the first basemen are going to be able to stay out of dodge. I think the runners are going to be able to stay on the line now more and not be always creeping. You know how they would run outside the line, or they'd be more like trying to avoid stuff. They don't probably need to now. They could probably stay running on the line all the way down. I do think that there's some real science behind there should be some injuries avoided, what have you. So I think it looks goofy. The base looks so damn big because we're so used to what it's supposed to be. But listen, if it does even a little bit help player safety, it's a small thing to me. I'll get used to the bigger bases. I'm not going to see the big base next to the small base anyway, so you're just going to see the bigger base out there.
That's right. You won't even realize it.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure we'll all look and go, geez, these look so big. But
and then game 2, it'll just be the norm. But
yeah,
it's funny because it's only 3 inches bigger. It's not like it's huge.
So I looked it up just to make sure. The players will have 99 more inches of surface area to work with, though. So that's where the safety comes from. They feel like that's a significant difference to give them a lot more latitude to work around the base and the runner to have their their path to it and what have you. So
Okay.
whatever,
Okay. Hey,
whatever.
listen,
I'm fine with that. Of all things, I'm not going to go nuts about that one.
it's all good. Listen, all I want to see is a good season. That's all. That's all.
Amen.
Just want to see some good baseball. I want to see the Mets play well, the Orioles play
You
well,
don't
and
mean that about the Mets. You'll be breaking my chops the second they have
I'm
a losing streak.
I listen, when we do our baseball preview show, wait till you hear that I pick the Mets versus the Orioles in the World Series.
Hey, man.
Not a chance. All right,
Why not?
let's move on. Let's move on. Let's get into a little NFL. And
Dun, 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 dun.
this I really need your opinion on because I feel like people get burned on this stuff all the time. All
All
right.
right.
And
Burn me.
that is what's going on right now in the NFL. And we're in the middle of the NFL combine. And
Oh, God.
granted, today is today is the first day of measurements and on-field workout. Here's my question, though. We've seen it. As Jets fans, we've seen our boy, who was our Ohio State. We drafted him like number 6. He was the defensive
Golson.
end. Yeah, Golson. I mean, he was just a NFL combine machine. Everybody was so excited about him, and then he gets in the league, and he did not even have a career sack. So, my question to you: do you think that we just too much emphasis is put on this stuff? I mean, this guy this guy had 28 bench reps, and this guy only had 25, or
I hate it.
his hands are 3/4 of an inch longer than this guy. I mean, is the fascination just too much with all of the measurements and things like that, rather than the fact like you take a guy like Stetson Bennett, okay, and I mean, he's looked really great in his last 2 years. He's won back-to-back national championships, but you look at him and he's like a potentially second or third day draft pick, maybe third day, so. That's my real question. I mean, is there just too much emphasis based on the measurables at the combine?
Yeah, I do think so. I also think it's such an inexact science, right? Like the
Yeah,
amount of misses, the amount of, like again, it's a small sample size, but Brock Purdy came from a reasonably big school. He was certainly well known enough. He wasn't, from Mississippi Southern Baptist D3 school, right? He was at Iowa State. Nobody thought anything of Brock Purdy. He went with the very last pick of the entire draft. He certainly looks as good, if not better, than every quarterback drafted in that class.
Oh, there's no doubt.
So how is that possible, right? I mean, there's people paid lots of money to look at these kids all year long. And I do think and again, some organizations do this well and some completely suck. So that's always going to be the case with anything, right? But I do think if your weighting measurement is distributed more towards what you do on 4 days than what you did over 2-3 years or 4 years, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
If a kid for 4 years was a player and he had a bad 2.5 days in Indiana, and now he's a C- player on your board, I think your board probably, I think that's probably not good. Like, I'd rather go with the 4 years I saw than a kid who decided to work his ass off for 8 weeks and get his 40 time down, 0.2 of a second. And now somehow he's never been that player on a football field, but now we're going to act like that's what he's going to be for the next 10 years. I think there's something wrong with that mentality. And I think, listen, you see it. The Baltimore Ravens, trying to think in real time quickly, but the Baltimore Ravens stand out to me. The Eagles, there's 2 or 3 organizations that seem to always go get people in all the different rounds of a draft and have a really good, have really good sound drafts. And then there's organizations that miss every year. And it's like, so.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. One of the I think probably one of the top stories at the combine is going to be Bryce Young.
Bryce.
Since they've been doing the combine, they've never had a quarterback who was less than 5'11" or weighed less than 185 pounds. Now, what happens if this guy comes back at 5'10", 180 pounds? Do you think that this is going to impact his draft stat, where he's going to go in the draft? Because he's potentially looking at he could be the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that will always, I will make this prediction right now. I never was as enamored with Bryce Young as everyone else. I try not to be a prisoner of the moment with the size and measurables because I hate that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hate the idea because you could be a complete bust at 6'5", 220. But part of what I didn't love about Tua is eerily similar what I don't love about Bryce Young. And they're kind of similar in that the biggest things you'll hear is they scan the field really well. They throw a very accurate pass, um, high IQ guys, but eerily similar. They're not great runners
yeah, yeah,
and they're very small. Two is thicker by a lot.
yeah.
Um,
Substantially, substantially.
Bryce Young is skinny.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would be afraid of that. I would be afraid of that bearing out over the course of an NFL career. Like, and CJ Stroud, by the way, and you didn't mention him, the biggest knock he has on him is the lineage at Ohio State. They all suck. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like Justin Fields, maybe he's bucking the trend, but even Justin Fields, when you think of Justin Fields immediately, what stood out is he ran like a monster.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he was basically like a top 10 NFL running back last year. But I don't know what that bodes. I don't know how that bodes for his passing ability. He also had some of the worst stinker passing games of all time last year.
Terrible, terrible,
So
terrible.
like that pedigree sucks at Ohio State.
And the funny thing is, what we're going to see is we're going to see Stroud's athleticism. It's going to be on full display, and
Oh
people are going to
God.
be enamored by what he can do. Oh my God, look at what this guy can
Yeah,
do.
he's gonna throw the ball 70 yards and he's gonna
Oh,
do all
he's
those
oh,
things.
he's going to be the
And
fastest and
just
the
like at the
strongest and
combine, the
whatever. It's
receiver
huge.
that's running open by 30 yards is going to be what he threw at Ohio State. No
Exactly,
defense.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
perfect for him.
Then you got guys like Anthony Richardson from Florida, and we mentioned
Top
Will
athlete.
Will
Yep.
Levis already. I mean, these guys, it's all potential. So they're going to get out there, and you're going to look at them and say, well, you know what? They didn't do a whole lot in college, especially Richardson. He didn't do much in college. I mean, that Florida team was terrible, and I don't think he was very good. But he's potentially a top 10 pick. They're going to look at all those. Oh my God, look at how tall he is and how he runs and how accurate his throw is. Okay, if that's the case, then why didn't you display that during your college career? Why do we have
Yeah.
to wait
Well,
until
then that's when you dig in on like how much of a cluster was that team? How bad was the skill players? Like it becomes a lot of like the old Josh Allen statement. How is Josh Allen a 50% completion guy in college at Wyoming and became damn near 68, 65% in the NFL? And he looks like the part in every way, shape, or form. He was playing with crappy talent around him. And clearly that was part of the issue. How do you know between these things? Like it's always a mystery.
I guess you really
Alabama and Ohio State are playing with world class talent.
but you know what? But also you got to remember that the guys that end up getting drafted early in the draft, like Bryce Young, is going to go to a crappy team. So is he going to do well? Probably not. Like Justin Fields. I mean, he was on a god awful team.
Yeah.
You know, granted there's a lot of things that he needs to learn, and the transition is huge. And I think people don't want to wait to see what these guys do. They want the
Yep.
performance right away.
That's
And
it.
one other thing that I noticed was Jalen Carter, who's also a potential
Mm.
number one. He's a top 4 pick, arrested in connection with racing. I guess he was in the other car that was racing when the other Georgia player got killed. After
I think they were in the car with him. He was racing with them in the car.
No. I think he was in a different car. I think he was in a
Oh,
different.
was he?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he was, but he was racing. So he was, but I don't know because I think it was just 2 people in that car. And they both died, but I think he was in the other car racing. I think I'm not
Okay.
100.
I thought I only scanned that story. I thought all 3 were in the car, but he was racing another driver who wasn't injured. I
Yeah,
could be wrong. I could
I
be
don't
wrong.
even I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if
It's
everything
crazy. It
was.
has to be a major thing. Like, first of all, he could be going to jail for vehicular, was it manslaughter or
I don't know. I mean, they
yeah.
charge him with reckless driving and racing.
Certainly there's no way he's going anywhere near as high as he was.
You think this can have a big impact on him?
Yeah, there's no way because they're never going to be able to dig in deep enough, these NFL teams, to know what he's facing and what's likely to happen by April. There's going to be a cloud over this kid. This kid may fall to the 3rd round. I mean,
Oh,
somebody's going to take him because he's just somebody's going to take him, but he may not be in the NFL for the next 5 years. How high are you going to take a kid who may go spend the next 5 years in jail? Like, I don't know. I'm saying there's going to be a lot of even if it's 2 years in jail.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't think he's getting out of no jail time. I don't think he
I don't
is.
know.
I don't think
I
he's getting
really
out
don't
of no
know.
jail time. Even if it's 1 year, how many, you're going to lose a year of a kid. How high you drafted him?
I don't know what the case is. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
listen, neither of us are attorneys. Neither of us have any real information on this whole thing. I mean, the teams are going to do their due diligence. But at the end of the day, people are always forgiven for what they do if they're good enough players.
He'll get a second chance if that's what you're saying, I'm sure, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That one's tricky. That one's tricky.
Like you got a guy like Ray Rice who was in the latter half of his career.
Yeah, they made an example out of a guy they didn't need anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But if he was in the prime of his career, would have been a different story. And there's other people that we can.
If Trevor Lawrence did that tomorrow, Trevor Lawrence would be back in the NFL.
Yeah, but Trevor Lawrence would never do that.
All right, let's go with someone else. If Zach Wilson was doing it, he'd be out of the league because nobody cares about Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson might be out of the league anyway.
He might be out of the league anyway. But they'd be like, damn it, we care about women right now. Zach Wilson, you're done.
That's right.
You and your 52% completion percentage is horrible anyway. We're saving the Jets. We're saving the fan base, and we're making an example out of you.
That's right.
Go back to BYU.
I think what might have happened is I think he might have had a relationship with Joe Douglas's wife, and that's why.
No, Joe Douglas seems to want to keep Zach. It's a story for another day.
Well, but there's a reason for that, because once you trade him, then you admit that you failed. And
I think Joe Douglas should stand up and say, this went wrong, boys. I got a lot right. I got a couple of big things wrong, and this is one I got wrong. I think a good GM pivots and says, I got it wrong.
Well, now, if he's going to do that, now is the right time, coming off 2 guys in the Hall of Fame, coming off offensive player of the year, defensive rookie.
Well, this is where he's got a little goodwill built up with the fan base. But I will say, I hear what you're saying about admitting you're wrong, and he definitely doesn't want to do that, and no GM does. Yeah. But I think the bigger issue isn't that. I think they said, because of how the rookie scale is set up, the dead cap hit is gigantic if he's not on their team this year.
Is that really what it is?
It's like gigantic. It's so cost prohibitive. The dead cap, it's like 25 million this year if he's not on the team. It's not real money, but it will hamstring their ability to get free agents. It's a penalty for missing on your draft picks, basically.
Interesting.
So I think that's why he's got to hold him for 1 more year, then they could trade him.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I got 2 more things with football that I just wanted to mention really quick. And one of them, Jeff Bezos, his name is going around as a guy that wants to buy the Commanders. And he was basically told, no, you're not allowed to bid on it. What do you think about that?
I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear about that? Yeah, I guess he and Daniel Snyder. I guess you remember when the whole thing with the Commanders came out?
They didn't want to They didn't want to allow him to call the stadium next day shipping.
Well, I guess it was it broke in the Washington Post.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post.
Yeah, I didn't.
There's a lot of bad blood there. So
interesting.
He doesn't want him to, and I don't think they're going to let him, which is really interesting.
It is. I'd want the richest man in sports to own the team. I don't see the downside. There's caps anyway, so
there's caps. So, but it doesn't matter who owns the team. Like, the cap's the cap.
No, I know that, but I just mean for not that the sport needs more branding, but there's probably some collaboration with Amazon that I don't know what's wrong with him owning the team is what I'm saying though.
Yeah,
what's the downside to the NFL having Jeff Bezos own a team?
I don't know. Besides the fact that his politics could get in the way of everybody else. I really don't.
You think the NFL care? I don't know. Maybe.
I really don't know. I really don't know. I know that Dan Snyder will not sell him the team.
I mean, I also can respect that. Dan's getting knocked out of the league, so he wants to sell it to whoever he wants to sell it to.
Yeah, and then there's rumor that Bezos is he might have an opportunity to buy. I want to say Seattle. I'm not really sure. I don't know if Paul Allen's family still owns Seattle. I think they do, and I think they're looking to offload it. Nice. So there he might have an opportunity there. And the last thing I want to mention, our boy Carson Wentz.
Carson.
He is now no longer on a team. 2020, Philadelphia. 2021, Indianapolis. 2022, Washington. We're pretty confident he's going to end up on another team, right?
Yeah, 2023, New York Jets starting quarterback. After we miss on every other person. And we'll be sold on his 2019 talented season and how he was on an upward trajectory until he got hurt. That year, the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
The
You
interesting
forget
thing.
about that. He was really the quarterback that led that whole season.
Oh, listen, he had a couple of really good years, but you got to remember something else, and I don't think people really give him any credit. Indianapolis. I mean, they haven't exactly, they had such great luck with Manning, and then with Luck, and their no pun intended luck has really gone the other direction now, right? So
I don't feel bad for them. They went from
no,
no, I don't feel
I
bad.
mean, listen, it is what it is. But in 2021, people don't realize it. He threw for 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. I mean, those are not bad numbers. But
No.
for whatever reason, they didn't like him in Indianapolis. They wanted to bring in Matt Ryan, who was a really, really good replacement. I mean, whatever happens to Carson Wentz, in 7 years, he's made $128 million.
He's doing all right.
I think that he's going to be okay. I think if he's a backup quarterback, I mean, listen, if I'm a team and I have the opportunity to bring him in and it's decent priced, maybe like $5 million to make him a backup. I mean, you're bringing in a guy that has a ton of experience. He's probably going to be the most experienced backup quarterback there is out there. It's not such a bad gig. He's
Nope.
definitely not going to be a starting quarterback. I can't see anybody giving him another chance to be a starter. It's just, I think he's just done. I think he's done. He's going to be like Marcus Mariota, and then look what happened to Marcus Mariota, right? They gave him a chance last year.
It
He
sucked.
got pulled after 13 games, and he just got dropped anyway.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
interesting things to think of. So anyway, so good luck with the baseball season this year, my friend. Enjoy
Appreciate it.
spring training. I
We got to
am.
do a big baseball preview show, maybe later part of March.
Yeah. We'll do it closer. We'll do it at the end of March and let everybody know what's going on. I still would like to play fantasy baseball this year. I got to be honest with
I
you.
know that. I mean, why don't you quarterback that thing and get it off the ground?
I don't know if I
If
can.
you're looking for me to quarterback it with the schedule I'm about to have, there's no shot.
Well, I mean,
Do you want to just play as a team, me and you, just enter some random private league? I mean, public league?
yeah, we could do that. We
I
could.
don't know. If
I
you're
don't know.
asking me to set a whole family one up, it's going to be tough.
No. I mean, I listen. I mean, I can set one up. I mean, do you have guys that would be interested in
I would
doing?
have at least a few who would be
Okay,
interested.
let me put some feelers out there, and we'll see.
Yeah, we could probably make a 10-team league happen. I could probably bring at least 2 or 3 people to the table beside myself. So I could probably account for 40% of a 10-team league or
Yeah,
something.
I could probably pull the rest in.
All right.
Find a way.
I'm fine with that. I look forward to that.
So we'll figure it out. Plus, it would give us something to talk about, especially when if you and I go head to head, and I'm beating you every week like I normally do.
Immediate prediction, WBC champion, in case we don't have a show before that. I mean, pick a country.
I mean, I'm going to be rooting for the U.S.
Thank you.
I'm an American. I'm going to be rooting for my
I will
home
just tell you, I
team.
looked at the U.S. roster because my son is into it. Like he's all
Yeah,
into it. He wants to
yeah,
get like a Pete Alonso USA shirt because the Mets
yeah.
have like 3 Mets on it.
Really,
The U.S. brought no pitching to the dance. They're not winning it.
really.
They're not winning it. They have no pitching because I don't think a lot of the pitchers want to participate in it. Like because it means you have to accelerate your ramp up
I wouldn't
and all
want
that. So, but a lot of these other teams, like the Dominican team, the Venezuelan team, the Puerto Rican team, they have a lot of the MLB's better pitchers from those countries. So the
Yeah.
U.S. has a stacked lineup. For those that don't know, haven't been locked in, the U.S. lineup is ridiculous. It's like Arenado, Goldschmidt, Trout, Alonso, um,
All the big names,
big
but
names, Rio Multo behind the plate. You name it, they have it. But their pitching sucks. They have no chance. It just
that's
sucks.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
too bad.
it's not a big household name. So I'll go probably with the Dominican
I
because
mean,
they're just
listen,
loaded.
you can't blame them. I mean, listen,
I get it. I get it.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be, but it's kind of odd to me. I guess maybe those other players, they just have more. I don't want to say pride in their country, but it's just different. It's just when you come from a
This,
third world country,
no. I
much
think they feel a way more pressure in their country to participate
obligated.
for sure,
Yeah,
100%. And
yeah.
listen, I would like to think some of the younger workhorses would have wanted to do it in the U.S. I understand you're not getting Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander or Jacob DeGrom or Garrett Cole even, who's making 40 million a year. You're not getting those guys. But I would like to think of Max Fried, maybe a Zach Wheeler, maybe some of the big horses, maybe a Burns on the Brewers,
kind
or
of
some of
the great players, but the guys that don't have the
yeah.
huge names.
Yeah, the huge profile guys. You would think you maybe even one of the Orioles young guys. Maybe, there's some guys, maybe the Blue Jay guy, I forget his name. Like you would think, but they don't have anybody. It's
But
bad.
Let me ask you this, and then I'll let you go. But do the teams have any say in that? Is there something that they can choose, or can the team like say, no, I forbid you from playing in it?
My understanding is that was collectively bargained, that teams cannot stop it.
Oh.
Because if that was, the owners would have been all over stopping it. And the World Baseball Classic was put together by MLB because they had to grant permission to do this at the time they're choosing to do it, which is during the spring training. And I think the MLB pushed hard with the players union to say the owners can't prohibit the players from doing it. But I do think if there's a lot of like, hey, you were out last year a lot, you had this nagging injury, like, no, we don't want you playing in it. But I don't think they could strong arm them completely and say no.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, but I can't blame them. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to put up 15 runs a game and win every game.
Viva la Mexico. I don't know. We'll see who wins. It's a lot of good. It'll be fun though. You know what? It does kind of bridge the gap to the MLB season, right? Like when you see countries competing and there are a lot of household names, especially in the lineups. When you watch Team USA's lineup, you're going to be like, holy crap, it's loaded. So there'll be some fun there. They'll have to hit though to win. They're not going to pitch.
And the interesting thing is, most of these teams, we're going to know everybody on the team anyway.
The Dominican lineup is a who's who. I mean, I think it's absurd. The USA lineup, Puerto Rico's got a handful of, I know Correa and Lindor and a bunch of guys. Oh no, you're going to have no issue. You're going to have no issue. And Japan will probably walk into town and win it because nobody knows anybody on Japan, but they'll probably be loaded with all stars that show up. Their whole pitching staff will show up. They'll probably win the whole thing. So, you know what I mean? Oh, and Otani's on Japan. He's playing.
Is he playing?
Yep. So they have Otani. They have the two-way star. So yeah, fingers crossed on him not getting hurt too for MLB's sake.
What he has done. I mean, the more that I think about, I know you're a big fan, and I'm not.
Really, I know you aren't. So be careful here.
But you know what? I'm not a big fan of his, but I appreciate his talent. I appreciate. You know, there's a guy now playing college that throws. He throws
righty lefty,
95 righty and 92 lefty. I'm like,
that's staggering. Yep.
Isn't that ridiculous? I mean, but that's the kind of stuff I love. I love.
It's unique. It's crazy.
Yeah, right. I mean, but then again, you can't make Otani the MVP every single year just because he pitches and hits.
I know. I agree with you. You can't make him the MVP every single year just because he is the MVP. I understand. It's not fair. It's not fair. Just because he has to win it every year because of the uniqueness, you can't.
Oh my God, he's the most valuable player in baseball, hands down.
You just don't want to give it to him every year. It's like the Jordan rules. You could have given it to him every year for 10 years, and you're like, no, try to find someone else.
I mean, imagine you got a guy like Mike Trout, right? Who's just put up. Let's say he's healthy. He's put up these ridiculous offensive numbers. And then he gets on the mound and he becomes one of the top pitchers.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen,
it's absurd. It's absurd. So I appreciate his talent, but obviously he's not doing anything to help that team win. That's
fair, and that's your best argument to not give him the MVP because the team sucks.
Yeah. So anyway, my man, enjoy baseball.
Good to see you.
About everything. We'll catch up more next week. We'll talk more about the results of the NFL Combine, see who kind of stuck out. Yep. And see. I mean, I'm really interested to see what Bryce Young measures out at, because this is the one time that like all the measurements are honest. You can't just say, hey, Charles Barkley's 6'9" and weighs 290 pounds. No, he's like 6'4.5. So
that's terrible. That's terrible.
It's terrible that you say
terrible.
So anyway, my man, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for the checking us out. Great explanations, my man, Phil, as always. So people are not going to be confused about some of these things. And we'll see everybody next time. Enjoy, and thanks for tuning in to Phil and the Mic.
See you guys.